Mike Stelzner, founder, Social Media Examiner.
Jay Baer, president of Convince and Convert. We do business strategy for big companies all around the world.
My name is Andrea Vall, and I'm the co-author of Facebook Marketing All-in-One for Dummies.
I'm Jen Herman with Jen's Trends, and I am a social media consultant, blogger, speaker, but I'm known in the industry for Instagram. I am the world's forefront blogger on Instagram marketing.
My name is Carlos Gil. I'm a speaker, author, and the owner of Gil Media Co.
My name is Joel Comm, and I'm an eternal 12-year-old.
My name is Brian Fanzo, millennial keynote speaker and podcaster.
And I'm a CEO and founder at Burn24, a media monitoring tool that allows you to know what people are talking about your company online.
My name is Roberto Blake. I'm a creative entrepreneur, public speaker at events like Social Media Marketing World.
My name is Brian Solis. I am a digital analyst and a digital anthropologist. I'm also a keynote speaker and an author of now 8 books.
My name is Parker Panel, and I'm a TikTok star. My video just hit 500,000 views in one day. Make sure you all follow me on TikTok at Parker Panel. Peace.
Friday night, we're at East Bar. You're smiling at me like I'm a star. Yeah. What up, lady? Can't find your face. I'm stumbling around, but there's not a trace. So what's the meaning? Just give me something. I need a remedy. Yeah, to keep me alive. You are my remedy. Gotta keep you in my sight. All I see is you, love, in the window of that car. With a guy that smiles like Elvis. I guess I'm not that star.
Mike Stelzner, founder, Social Media Examiner. 7th year of Social Media Marketing World. We founded this thing 7 years ago, and it's grown to almost 5,000 people from around the world coming here to really up their marketing game.
I mean, I think to the industry, it really is the de facto event for everybody, right? I mean, it's extraordinary, and you've seen this over the years, the percentage of attendees of this event who are from, I met a guy from Iceland this morning, right? I mean, it's not just people from this region or from the US, people are coming in from all over the world because it is the definitive event of its kind, which is a pretty big accomplishment, really. And to me, it's one of my favorite events ever, every year, because a lot of people I kind of came up with are here, and a lot of people I really admire. And then also, it's a great place to sort of reconnect with your fans and your listeners and your subscribers and your book readers. And you know, I was a little bit down before I got here. It's been a couple weird weeks, and I was just feeling great about some stuff. And you know, you get here, and some people that you know, and people who really appreciate your work, who you've never met, like, oh, I love your podcast, I love your book. It's nice to have that sort of ratification that people care about the work you do.
Social Media Marketing World is the one event out of the year that you need to come to if you work in social media or if you use social media in your business. This is my 5th year speaking at Social Media Marketing World, and that's my favorite conference of the entire year. This year I had an opportunity to do a talk on employee advocacy, which is different for me because in the past I've done talks related to Snapchat for business. This year I was on the corporate track. And what that means is the people in the room are corporate marketers. They work at enterprise brands. They're looking for no BS, no fluff, and they're looking for tactical ways that they can grow their business. And employee advocacy is really important because when you take the makeup and the foundation of a corporation, let's say your corporation has anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand people working for you. When you're able to activate that audience, you're now able to expand your reach on social media exponentially without having to depend on just having one Instagram account or one Facebook page or one Twitter.
So it's my 2nd time at the Social Media Marketing World Conference. I find this place super valuable to build relationship with people. This is my major point for being here. We use the booth, we use the stand just to hang out with people and get the feedback about our communication and the product. So there's no place like hanging out with potential clients and seeing their response, seeing their face, their emotions when we're pitching the product, we're pitching different parts of product. This is how we can learn what works and what doesn't work to hopefully make less mistakes in our communication afterward.
because the serendipity at these events can open up the doors. But if you're locked into these controlled environments, it really prevents you from embracing this thing. If you need to do controlled content or controlled conversations, save that for the phone and Skype after an event.
I come to Social Media Marketing World because I gain value from all the speakers, and they always have like a different perspective on things that I don't personally know about. Like, I just recently joined LinkedIn. I was like, what is LinkedIn? But now I kind of got a platform there, or just trying to work on there. And I always like learning new things.
You know, I don't know how I missed year one. I really don't. I must have been somewhere in a cave. And then I got invited to speak after meeting Michael Stelzner at the second year, and I've been to and attended every one since. But it's just growing. Social media is evolving. The type of content that people are needing to learn is evolving. New speakers are entering into the space. Some people that were prevalent on top of the game are no longer here.
Definitely, I think one of the biggest benefits is just making connections and talking to people. I see people on their phone a little bit too much. You're here to really connect, and of course, just do your tweeting and posting and Instagramming when you're home or in your room, you know. Definitely get out and meet as many people, because amazing connections and synergies and even businesses are built from this conference.
The future of social media is centered on humanizing your brand through people, which is what my book, The End of Marketing, goes into great lengths explaining. Brands nowadays are just advertisers. People don't want to be sold to. People are tired of every time they go on Facebook, they're going to see an ad from a company, whether it's a sponsored post or whether it's an organic post. Every brand's trying to sell, whereas with people are going on social media to engage. They're going on social media to be entertained. They're going on social media to hear and see and feel emotion from creators and other people like them. And that's what brands need to hone in on. How do you become viewed as being personable versus just being another brand that's trying to sell?
I think the social media world is becoming primed for disruption. You know, one of the other arenas that I've entered without realizing it was going to become a big deal is the blockchain world. And I co-host a podcast that talks all about blockchain, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, the future of digital money, digital contracts. And I think what we're seeing, because of the concentrated centralized power in the Silicon Valley few, Google, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and because of the censorship issues that we're seeing around that, because basically we are their product, that blockchain is going to offer up new opportunities for decentralization that is going to re-empower the users of social media. It's going to re-empower advertisers to be able to reach a targeted audience. It's going to empower publishers to be able to get their content out there and give us choices in what we see, rather than having this centralized power from these few big monopolies.
When I think about the future, I've already mapped out a long-term strategy for myself, but I give myself room to pivot and to be flexible. I think that a lot of people are very rigid in their approach to future thinking. And I think you have to understand that there are variables that you don't account for a lot of times, and one of those variables is where's the culture heading and where's the market heading. It's not always going to be predictable. And you also have to account for the fact that there might not be a long shelf life to these platforms, and people are scared to invest and commit there, whereas I am not. Because what I'm going to get is the relationship value while I'm there, and I'm going to take those relationships with me wherever I go. I'm also going to take the knowledge and skills that I gained by going in on a platform and understanding it contextually. I'm going to find a way to apply and to deploy against that in the form of a product or service outside of the platform anyway. And that's why I think the future is for marketers and people in the social media world, is to move away from vanity metrics, to move away from the fear and anxiety of what platforms and algorithms are going to do in the future, and to really invest in understanding that I'm going to translate the learning lessons of this elsewhere and deploy it in the larger ecosystem of the world or the internet itself at scale.
Well, I think the biggest evolution is to come. I mean, the recent announcement from Facebook that they're going to integrate Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp, and really lean more towards a messaging style approach to social as opposed toward a broadcasting style of social is going to have huge ramifications for every single person using social for business. We are moving quite clearly, in my estimation, from a broadcasting style of social to more of a phone book style. We're communicating with a handful of people. I mean, Snapchat really invented it, right? And Evan Spiegel called this ball 4 years ago. He said we are moving from broadcasting to phone book, and everybody thought he was crazy, and he was 100% right. So I think that the things that Snapchat introduced in the marketplace are now being mimicked, not only in sort of features like stories, but the whole business model of social is going to change. And I think we'll see more difference in the next 2 years than we've seen in the previous 5.
I see it continuing to get a little bit more niched, people focusing a little bit on saying, let's just engage our smaller audience. Even with what Facebook is doing, they're really trying to make it more personal. And I think people are realizing you don't have to be super big. You can just have influence on a smaller group and have a wonderful business.
So the future of social media, in my opinion, will be more about human-to-human interaction, more about personalization and less bulk communication that we tend to experience over past years. So
there's no limit to where this is going to go. IGTV is having a bit of a resuscitation. It's coming back to life. So there's going to be a lot more to do with that. Instagram Stories is constantly evolving. We're going to see so many more new features for Instagram Stories coming up. And then Instagram in and of itself is still, I mean, it's the #2 platform in terms of, monthly active users.
Look, social media has been a gift. I once said that the great thing about social media is that it gave us a voice. The bad thing about social media is that it gave us a voice. The thing about it, though, in its true essence, was about the democracy of information and the democracy of influence, meaning that we were no longer subjected to sort of this broadcast, top-down, media-led narrative. We could be part of the story. We could create the story, much like we're doing right now. So that's, to me, the good thing about social media, is that it brings us closer as a community, or it could, but at the same time, those same things that are good for it are also the things that are not so good for it, right? You can manipulate. I say there's 2 ways to inspire behavior. You can inspire it or motivate behavior. You can inspire it or manipulate it. And we also see what happens with manipulative techniques, right? With propaganda and bots and all kinds of just a lot of intentional activity that forces people into polarizing views, that plays off of the cognitive biases. And I wrote a paper for, we'll just say, a government body, my goodness, 10, 12 years ago, about the opportunities present in social media to bring citizens together, to make a stronger community, to make a stronger country. And it was interesting to see that a lot of those same ideas were used to rip the country apart. So I think that it's powerful. It's still, there's a quote that I like to say that we created with the power of the gods, but without the wisdom. So I think we have a lot to learn. And the challenge is that everybody believes in change, but very few believe in changing themselves. And I think that change and that positivity and the promise of all social media has to start right here.
I don't think relevance is something that you try to do. I think it's something that comes from being engaged with what's happening.
You got to consume a lot of content, right? You got to read a lot of blog posts, you got to listen to a lot of podcasts, you got to go to a lot of conferences. I mean, you just have to put in the time. I probably spend at least 2 hours a day just consuming content from other people. I also have an amazing team at Convince and Convert who all do the same thing. So between the 15 of us or whatever, you sort of you got fishing lines in a lot of informational ponds, and that really helps. All the data show that we trust businesses and organizations less than ever, and we trust individuals more than ever. And those 2 things will continue to diverge. So I'm going to talk about this in my session tomorrow. If you want to use social media to create behavior change, which is really what it's all about, frankly, it's really, really hard to do that coming from a company perspective. Because they either know it's an ad so they don't believe it, or they don't believe it anyway because you're a business. So the trick to everything in social now is to get your customers to do your marketing for you, right? To get them to create content, to get them to tell your story, which is why my new book and the things we're working on a lot of Convince and Convert is all about word of mouth. Because all it is now is word of mouth in social media. That's the game now.
It's interesting because I have both a personal brand, but then I'm trying to build my corporate brand. I previously used to work in corporate brand marketing, and during that time, I found myself having to create my personal brand in order really to overcompensate for the fact that I wasn't being leveraged internally at these companies. My full potential wasn't being leveraged. So what I found was, as I was creating this personal brand was kind of morphing into a life of its own. I started creating this persona, the Carlos Gil brand, if you will. And then when Snapchat became really hot in the years like 2015 and 2016, 2017, at that point, I started making this like larger than life character, if you will, because I was getting the reach and the impressions over on Snapchat. Now let's fast forward to today, where I run my own business. I don't want people to know me as a persona. I want people to know me as a businessman. There's a lot more in here that I have that can give us value to potential clients, including folks that come to this event here, versus just being a personality online.
You just have to never stop learning, really. That's what it is. Never stop learning and sharing and getting better and testing.
Kids my age will just want to see like something that is obviously very like childlike and funny, because if it's super serious, then kids are gonna be like scroll, like, because kids have a very small retention span, so they're gonna see it and be like, oh, that's boring. So find something that pops and that normally has a lot of colors, which I've noticed normally does really well. So something like that.
It's really about finding something that allows you to stand out in a noisy online space. I've done things where we have our Queenies retreat and we all wear our tiaras and we go out and we literally went out for dinner the other night here at the conference and wore our tiaras, and everyone's like, why are you wearing a tiara? Is it a bachelorette party? Like, what's happening? But that's our ability to stand out. That's our thing, and it's a conversation starter. And when you start talking about how we use it to talk about female empowerment in the social media industry, people want to know more. And it's because I wore a tiara at a dinner. So you just have to find your way of what is that voice, what's that component that allows you to stand out in that noisy online world and to embrace it, whatever that is. We've seen a lot of the presenters talk like Star Wars, or Stephanie Liu today, did the Greatest Showman type theme. Like, find that thing that you're passionate about, tie it into your brand, and allow that to be where your tribe finds you.
Brand24 has a dedicated plan that helps you to track mentions, obviously, for your personal brand and build relationships with your community. And so obviously when people are tracking your work, when they are sharing your content, they are typically not used to you engaging and thanking them for sharing, for for a kind word, for linking to their work, to your work. So essentially, this is a great way, the new channel, to build a relationship with your community and to boost it, and to just turn people who share your work into people who are your fanatics.
Social media is a way to connect with other people in a more concentrated, focused manner. Before social media, we had chat rooms and bulletin boards, and we had this social aspect, but the social sites we have now just make it easier to make those connections.
It was a little bit of a natural progression for me. I started in digital in 1993 when domain names were free, and so lived through the website era, the email era, the organic search era, the paid search era, and then eventually it's like, okay, now we're going to do social. And each of those is just a different way to reach audiences.
First of all, social media marketing is in flux. We're moving towards an era where video is very, very important. Moving away from an era where written content was important. So in the past, it was all about writing articles and linking them to your website, or it was about putting a picture up on there. But now we're moving towards vertical story video. We're moving towards short form video on all the social platforms, typically a minute or less. And we're also moving towards the longer form video, specifically on YouTube, in shows, vlogs, and that's kind of the near future. The far, far off future, yeah, we're talking augmented reality, virtual reality, all these different kinds of things, but it's a little bit too far off for the marketing community because you first have to have an audience for marketing to tap onto it.
Definitely, I think older people should pay attention to it, because a lot of kids, like the millennials, are going to be rising to the top, obviously, because we're kids and we're growing up. And we normally will have a glimpse of what's going to happen in the future with social media. Like a couple years ago, I remember Musical.ly back in the day, which was TikTok. they would literally, like, people would be like, it's gonna be nothing. Now it has millions of users on there. Like, I've seen videos with like hundreds of millions of views, like so many views, and like hop on that platform like while they're in their beta stages, and then you'll blow up. I truly think that like I just said, like the younger age knows exactly what they're talking about. I know a lot of people will just think like, oh, he's a kid, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But I would say that obviously some kids don't know what they're actually saying, but I think if you find the right place, like a social media marketing world, for example, then you'll find kids who are very influential in like the social media community and everything, and they know what they're talking about.
I want to see women get out there and be them, like be true to what they do, but to take ownership of it as well. Too often as women, we tend to apologize. We tend to be people pleasers, and we don't want to, you know, upset somebody or push the boundaries, and we tend to find like a happy coaxing type, you know, position. And that's never going to bring success. You have to get out there proudly, own what you do, realize you have something of value to share with the world, no matter what it is, how big, how small it is. You are changing the world. Realize you're changing the world, embrace that, and get out there and do what makes you happy, do what brings you passion, and don't feel ashamed for it because somebody else questions it.